The losses to the transfer portal are beginning to roll in.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. I'm your host, Mike Galatzan of Texas A&M Aggies on SI. Welcome to Locked On Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL bets all season long. I'm joined by Zach Dimmitt today. Zach, Merry Christmas, by the way. This is a Christmas Eve edition of Locked On Aggies. Not a good Christmas present last night for the Aggies, though. They're losing another talented player to the NCAA transfer portal. That was a great intro, by the way. Great segue from a Merry Christmas, if I do say so myself. Jayvon Thomas, former four-star corner, has elected to enter the portal after 2 years with the team. He came in as part of the 2023 class, and as a true freshman, he played in 9 games, including making a start against Ole Miss. And after playing such an extensive amount in his freshman season, there was a lot of hope around Jayvon Thomas. South Oak Cliff High School, Dallas native, really, really talented recruit. He made 4 starts in 2024, played in 11 games. And, he seemed like a really fast riser on this team, kind of fell behind this year. Des Ricks really kind of took that position over at one corner. Will Lee the third, obviously, as well had a big year. So those two, former transfer corners, kind of took over that spot. And then Tyreek Chappelle being back at the nickel, there was really nowhere in terms of space for him to start on this football team this year. But with Chappelle being a senior and Will Lee III being a senior, you thought that maybe he would have an opportunity to get back up the depth chart and be a starter next season. However, he elects to enter the NCAA transfer portal and becomes the second Aggie to do so as of us recording this podcast on Wednesday, December 24th at 9 a.m. We'll see. I mean, obviously, those portal losses will continue as we go, through the off season, but this was one that kind of stings because he's a really talented player, Zach.
Yeah, whenever you're losing a third-year guy, because he came in with that 2023 class, didn't play a lot of, this season, but you really saw that potential growth after having some decent playing time as a true freshman, and so to see him transfer out is it kind of stings a little bit, especially considering the losses you already have in the secondary. You'd figure that he'd get more playing time, next year, but sometimes it's just about a change of scenery. Maybe, Jay Bateman going to Kentucky played a role in that. You never know how those things work out when it comes to relationships. Some of the coaching staff changes there on defense.
Secondary coach Jordan Peterson being one of those as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one there. So a little bit confusing, Tyreek Chappelle, Willie the third. Don't mean to correct you there, but there's actually this is actually the third portal loss when you count Tristan, Jernigan, Jordan Pride, and now Jayvon Thomas there. So when you count those two guys, that's 3 losses on defense, and not to mention the draft losses, eligibility losses. So they're definitely gonna have to fill some holes, whether it's from a starter's depth or a starter or a depth perspective on the defensive side. I'm sure we'll talk about that in the next segment. But yeah, you would like to see Jayvon Thomas potentially step up next season as a starter, especially after showing some promise those first 2 years. This year he did have a tackle against Texas, and that was, according to ESPN stats, that's the only tackle he registered all year. And so definitely kind of interested in there. I don't believe he was dealing with any notable injury or anything to my knowledge. So yeah, maybe he fell down the depth chart, and that's just how those things go sometimes. But wish him the best, and he'll definitely be giving another program, potentially a Power Four program, some decent experience after spending 3 years at A&M. Yeah, you wish things could have worked out a little bit differently.
Yeah, I had high hopes for him coming into this season. I thought Des Ricks was really good this year, though. I thought Willie the Third was really good. I thought Tyreek Chappelle was really good. Um, I I kind of felt like 2026 was going to be Jayvon Thomas's year to make his NFL case. Maybe he feels like with a new defensive backs coach coming in eventually. Maybe they're going to adjust things scheme wise, defensively as well. With Lyle Hemphill now at the helm, I don't know. It really did feel like he had an opportunity. Unfortunately, it looks like he's going to have to find that opportunity elsewhere. I wonder where that will be. I wonder if that will be somewhere with a little bit, a little bit smaller of a division, or not division, conference. Conference, maybe a group of 5. Maybe he goes, FCS. I doubt that. I think he'll find somewhere in the state of Texas, maybe a Texas State or SMU, or, I mean, no disrespect to SMU, but it's not SEC football. Like somewhere else in the state of Texas where he can still be close to home, get an opportunity to play, maybe get a few NIL bucks as a former 4-star recruit and an SEC transfer. We'll see how that goes. But yes, you were correct. I completely forgot about Jordan Pride. He slipped my mind. Anyway, that is now the 3rd loss on defense for the Aggies so far at the conclusion of the 2025 season. I almost said 2026 season. It's the holidays,
Almost.
Zach. We're rocking and rolling. We're trying to get it done. But it is the 3rd defensive loss for the Aggies in the 2026 season. And coming up next, we're going to tell you exactly where the needs are for this defense when you take into account those portal losses and the losses to the NFL and graduation and all that stuff. Some players that they could potentially target, and a couple of guys who are pretty exciting names. So stick with us after this break, and we'll be right back. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on the action as it unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. And you can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, anything that can keep you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Well, Jayvon Thomas certainly is a loss defensively in terms of depth, as we noted in the first segment. Not exactly, a shocking loss, I don't think, considering he had fallen down the depth chart a little bit. 1 tackle in 2025. There will be other losses on this football team. There will be a bevy of losses on this football team, as a matter of fact. Not only will Texas A&M be losing their defensive tackle pairing of Albert Regis and Tyler Yedim, Cassius Howell will likely be a top 15, top 20 NFL draft pick. So he is also a senior, so he is going to be gone. Dayan Hayes on that defensive line is also going to be gone. And then, you start to have the conversations about some of these other players. We already mentioned Will Lee and Tyreek Chappelle. they're both going to be out of eligibility as well heading to the NFL draft. But, guys like Torian York, does he take a shot at the pros? Des Ricks, I know he's a sophomore, so, he'll be around a little bit. You're also losing Scooby Williams. There's a bunch of different things that could happen on this defense, but by my count, at least, you are losing 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. You're losing somewhere between 7 to 9 players that are key contributors on your defense. 7 seniors, and then there's going to be some players who elect to either go pro or enter the transfer portal. There's always turnover in today's day and age of college football. So much like we did yesterday with some offensive portal needs and some portal targets, we're going to do the same for you on the defensive side of the ball today. And Zach, I think it's pretty obvious the first need for the Aggies in this upcoming transfer portal cycle is going to be on the defensive line. We're going to talk about both positions on the defensive line. I'm going to start with edge rusher, though. Cassius Howell, obviously unanimous All-American, unbelievable football player, likely first-round NFL draft pick. You got to find a way to replace him. And it just so happens that Chaz Coleman has entered the transfer portal out of Warren, Ohio, Penn State. He's ranked the number 1 player in the transfer portal as of right now. 6'4", 246-pound edge. He seems like a pretty good replacement for Cassius Howell, if you ask me. He is one of the more talented players in the Big Ten, and he's one of those guys that if I'm Mike Elko with my Northeast ties, I think I'm taking a shot at this guy.
Yeah, people made so much about Mike Elko and why, he should be going to Penn State, and you and I kept saying, "Oh, but where's the connection? He went to Penn. Other than that, where's the connection?" But now it's like, okay, so go ahead and this should be an easy recruitment then if that was the case, that he was so connected to Penn State or whatever. I'm kind of being a little bit of an ass, but I think that that'd be a huge get. You can't just replace Cassius Howell that easily. Obviously, because he's potentially going to be a first-round NFL draft pick. Those don't just grow on trees. But man, for a 5-star coming out of high school, and Chaz Coleman, he obviously has the talent. Things didn't work out at Penn State this year for that entire team, but they were littered with talent across the board. So anytime one of those guys enters the portal, it's definitely going to perk some ears up. Penn State, I think, I believe it was The Athletic that reported that Penn State did actually target Elko for sure. But, not surprising that he kind of brushed that aside. I think it's pretty clear that A&M is where he's going to be staying for a long time. Then, of course, Penn State made a great hire in Matt Campbell. So, but yeah, edge rusher is going to be tough. It's going to be a very competitive position in the portal. Man, Chaz Coleman, that'd be quite a get if the Aggies can put their name into that contention. Yeah, but for me, I think that one of the biggest portal needs is also going to be in the secondary. Maybe I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, when you get to the rest of the defensive line, you're losing quite a bit of experience. You mentioned Albert Regis, Tyler Yetum, Cassius Howell. That's a lot of experience you're losing, and you can always replace that with talent, but you can't just necessarily replicate experience right away. And I know A&M had their issues when it came to run defense this season, but overall it was a really solid year up front, in my opinion. I think those guys played with their hair on fire. I think it was a solid group. Maybe under new defensive leadership. I know Mike Elko calls the plays on defense, but maybe under new defensive leadership with Jay Bateman, leaving. Lyle Hemphill. Let's see what happens there. You never know. So maybe something changes there from a run defense perspective. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough replacing that experience. But yeah, in the secondary, I think you're going to have to go to the portal for depth or starters. Willie the Third, Tyreek Chappelle. We mentioned Jayvon Thomas, Jordan Pride. He's a little bit further down the depth chart, but Dalton Brooks. I got the sense from the post-game press conference that he'd be returning. It seemed when they asked him and Tori in New York about potentially returning, it really seemed like they were kind of set on that. So that'd be huge. You don't want any more surprise transfers, though. You wouldn't want Des Ricks, Dalton Brooks, Marcus Radcliffe. You don't want any of those guys to potentially surprisingly enter the portal. That would kind of hurt for sure. And then Bryce Anderson, another guy who could be returning. So secondary still has some familiar faces, but I think the depth, and this is all across the board, safety, corner, but particularly corner, and then at nickel. I think you're going to have to get some guys from the portal just to kind of fill those gaps on the roster. And then, of course, at the end of the day, it also depends on which freshman can step up. But that kind of sometimes is uncertainty. So just got to wait and see.
Yeah, just a couple of more names to fill out, the kinds of things that Zach and I are talking about here. Another edge rusher that, could potentially be of interest to Texas A&M. I mean, obviously you never know with what's going on out there. I mean, it's NIL is what's king when it comes to most of this stuff, but Harvey Dyson, he's out of Cedar Hill, Texas, transferring from Tulane. He was one of the top edge rushers in the American Conference. He finished the season with 8 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. I believe he was all conference and was one of the leaders in the AAC in sacks. And then in terms of a younger guy, you could talk about a Javian Hilson. He was, one of the, he was a 5-star coming out of high school, but he was one of the top, guys that everybody was going after at the edge rusher position. He'll have 3 years of eligibility left at least. And, he was a guy that was down to a few SEC schools when things were, coming down to the end for his recruitment. Texas, Michigan, Missouri, Florida State. The list, Texas A&M offered him, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee. All these schools offered him. Ohio State was in there. So he's a guy that will be, I think, coveted very heavily again. And Texas A&M could potentially get in on the Florida native there. And then when you talk about interior defensive line, as Zach mentioned a minute ago, there will be a little bit of turnover there with the two of those guys, but here's my thing with that position. I think that you should potentially look for somebody who is a giant space eater and can help plug up the middle of that defensive line and help in run stopping. There's a guy named Ian Jeffrard who will be transferring from Arkansas. Arkansas is still trying to hold on to him, but he's right now ranked as the 3rd defensive tackle in the transfer portal class. This man is 6'7", 380-pound mountain of a man. He is very difficult to move. I think that Texas A&M could use something like that. I mean, I know it's not necessarily typical with what they have there on the defensive line. Maybe this is something that you should try, with the lack of ability to stop the run. I know Albert Regis is a big dude. I know that Dalen Evans, DJ Hicks, Tyler Nyenham are big dudes. Ain't nobody on that defensive line this big. So maybe it's something you try. Everybody's schematics are different in what they like to do, but he is one that I would look at as well. And then the number one defensive tackle in the transfer portal, Mateen Ibiogba out of Wake Forest. He is going to be very heavily pursued as well. But just another name on the defensive interior to keep an eye on. And then in the secondary, there's a couple of names here that that really kind of caught my eye in terms of corner. First of all, what are you going to do with Will Lee? Are you going to leave him on one side of the field, or are you going to move him not Will Lee, Des Ricks? Are you going to move him over to the other side of the field? I don't know. But there's a couple of names, and John Tez Williams, 6'2", 185 pounds out of Iowa State. He's the number one corner in the portal. Jay Crawford out of Auburn is also really highly ranked in the On3 transfer portal rankings. He's a Georgia native. Maybe he goes home to Georgia, but Texas A&M recruits the state of Georgia really well. I don't know. I'm just saying he's got SEC experience. He is certainly a name to watch. And then I think the one that is most interesting to me is Jabril Rawls, 6'2", 175 pounds, Florida State corner. He was Florida State's best defensive player this past year, and I think that he projects pretty well in the Texas A&M defense. So that's just another name to keep an eye on. We could go on and on.
Yeah, I had another name to add to that. Bo Masco, Rutgers cornerback. A pretty notable name for the Scarlet Knights this year. But the only reason I bring that up is because the Aggies hired former Rutgers co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach Zach Farber. So he had worked with Mike Elko at Duke, and spent this past season with Masco. So do the Aggies want to potentially target him? He'd have a familiar face to work with. I know that he was working with the linebackers, but also was the co-defensive coordinator, so he was kind of hands-on across that defense. Do the Aggies target Bo Masco? He's according to 24/7 Sports' transfer portal rankings, Masco's the fourth highest-rated cornerback at this moment. So he's got 3 years of experience under his belt. Had an interception, 2 forced fumbles this season, 4 pass breakups, 48 total tackles. I don't know. Interesting name to look out for there, just because of the connections.
Yeah. So we just threw a bunch of names at you. We could go on all day. This whole process is just kind of getting started for Texas A&M. So there will be a long way to go until we figure out who they're going to target and who all enters the portal and where all their needs end up being. But that's just a brief preview before the Christmas holiday. The portal opens on January 2nd, so we still got a little bit of time. But it is bowl season, Zach. For some reason, there's no college football playoff games this weekend. I don't understand it. So we're going to have to do bowl games for our picks of the week. So stick with us after this break, and we'll be right back. It's bowl season. Bowl games don't mean anything anymore, but it's bowl season. I heard an interesting theory, by the way, or not theory, idea, that all bowl games should be the first game of your next season schedule. So if you're Texas and you get to or Texas A&M and you get to the let's say the Citrus Bowl and you play Michigan instead of Texas, then you play Michigan to open the season next year. I think that that's a really cool idea. It's never going to happen, but it'd be fun. Anyway, we're going to pick 5 games. Harrison is taking it. He's on his Christmas vacation, and I will get his picks right now as it stands. Last week, I went. I went 3-2, I believe. Hold on. Sorry, 4-1. I ended up going 4-1 thanks to the Montana game. I threw that one in as a wrench for Harrison last week. And Harrison went 2-3, which means we are now tied at 37-40. heading into bowl week. I kind of want to punish him for going on vacation, but I will let him make his picks and mail them into me before next week. Zach is going to make his picks instead, or make his, Zach is going to make his own picks, and Harrison will make his. We're going to pick 5 games this week, 5 bowl games, and we are going to start with the Kinder's Texas Bowl in Houston. LSU is 2.5-point dogs to Houston, which is kind of surprising to me. But LSU didn't have the best season. Who you got, Zach?
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth with this one. Of course, former A&M quarterback Connor Wegman in this game. This is at NRG Stadium, so technically a home game for Houston, but I got a good feeling that there will be a lot of LSU fans there. Not too far of a drive from Baton Rouge, of course. So, but it's all about whose game which team is going to value this game more. And I think it's Houston. I think LSU is kind of transitioning to the Lane Kiffin era. They still got a lot of talent on that roster, but it has really not been a great season at the end of the day. And Houston has had a pretty solid season. They're ranked 21 right now, according to like those final CFP rankings. So yeah, I got Houston this one. Are we doing score predictions or just picks?
We're just picking against the spread.
Okay, yeah. I got Houston covering that one, 2.5. They probably win by 4 if I were to guess. Close game. I think this is what kind of one of those more under the radar but interesting bowl matchups. So yeah, give me Willie Fritz, give me the Cougars. I like them in that one as LSU transitions into the Lane Kiffin era.
Yeah, I've got the Cougars as well. I think there's just too much turmoil with LSU, and everybody's playing for Houston, and they played pretty well this year. I think they're a pretty good football team. Also, go Connor Wegman. I know he left A&M, but we stand Connor Wegman on this show. He's a great kid. And he's a good quarterback. All right, now we are going to move on to a game that many thought could potentially be a national title matchup. But now we're in the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Penn State at 6-6 is a 3-point dog to the 7-5 Clemson Tigers. Cade Klubnik will be playing in this game for Clemson. Drew Aller was lost for the season earlier in the year. He was playing like dog water anyway. So I don't know if it's an upgrade. Their backup almost beat Indiana though, so that's something. This game is going to be played at Yankee Stadium. What you got, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting bowl game as well. You got to, when it comes to these two teams, you got to look at some of the opt-outs, some of the portal guys that have gone, because both these teams enter the season with lots of talent. But it's about what kind of talent will be there. I don't have the, portal departures and draftees that are headed out. I don't have those pulled up right now, but I know Clemson's lost a few notable guys that could be first-round picks. Yes, Cade Klubnik is going to be playing, but Penn State actually, despite how horrible things were for them this year, they actually kind of bounced back decently well towards the end of the year, where Clemson, they just had some really poor games on defense. I think Penn State wins this game. Clemson's favored by 3 at the moment, but give me Penn State. I think Clemson can cover, but give me Penn State on like a late field goal or something. Win by 1 or 2 points. I got the Nittany Lions there. They're transitioning as well into the Matt Campbell era. I don't think Dabo Swinney has got it anymore, and I think that Clemson 6-6 right now. They're gonna fall to below 500 to end the year, which is pretty crazy to think heading into the season. So yeah, give me Penn State there.
I'm going to take Clemson just because Cade Klubnik. I'm a Cade Klubnik fan. I think he's really good. I think both of these teams kind of suck, so I don't really know which way to go with it. So yep. I'm just going to go opposite you and go Clemson because I like Cade Klubnik. All right, let's roll through these last 3 real quick. We're running short of time here. Georgia Tech in the will take on BYU in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. BYU is favored by 4.5 is what I have it locked in at. I'm going to go first here, Zach. I think BYU is an absolute fraud of a football team, so I'm taking Haynes King, former Aggie quarterback, who just won the Tyler Rose Earl Campbell Award, by the way. I'm taking Haynes King. We stand Haynes King on this podcast as well. I'm taking him over the Cougars.
I'm going to go opposite of you there. I actually think, while I do agree with you that BYU is a little bit of a fraud, I think BYU is going to be a little bit pissed off about all the doubt that surrounded them. I think they're going to kind of roll in this game, to be honest. Georgia Tech's a good team, but I got BYU by 10 or more.
Okay. Wow. I guess we'll talk about that one later. I like that pick, Zach. Two complete opposite ends of the spectrum there. Okay. We've got the ACC runner-up, Virginia Cavaliers, taking on the Missouri Tigers in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Missouri is favored by 4 in this football game. This game is like the grossest Gator Bowl of all time to me. Both of these teams are so overrated. Is Ahmad Hardy playing in this game? I don't know. I haven't seen.
Yep,
I don't cover Missouri football. I'm just going to go with Eli Drinkwitz. I just, I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about it, but I'm going to go with you. I know they lost Bo Pribula, but I think they like Matt Zollers. I'm taking the Tigers -4.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Virginia's actually ranked number 19 headed into this game, according to those CFP final rankings or whatever it was. But I think I got to pick the SEC here. I think Virginia is very, very much overrated throughout the whole year. Yeah, and Missouri has a really great ground attack. It does depend on if Ahmad Hardy plays, but yeah, I got the Tigers there.
Okay, and then our final pick of the game or of the week, San Diego State 3.5-point dogs. How disrespectful to the North Texas Mean Green in the Isleta, New Mexico Bowl. I know that's the one everybody was waiting for, but we're kind of short on games that we can pick at the moment, so I gotta find the ones that I can. Drew Mestemaker is in the transfer portal for North Texas. I don't think that he's playing in this football game. San Diego State was one of the better group of 5 teams in the country. They finished 9-3. I'll let you go first here, Zach, because I'm still kind of deciding, but this should actually be a pretty entertaining game.
Yeah, before we hopped on the show, I said that I thought North Texas would roll, knowing that Messmaker's in the portal. But after further thought, I do think that North Texas will still win. But I think it'll be an entertaining game. Yeah, San Diego State was kind of under the radar out of the Mountain West this year. I got North Texas. They have a really explosive offense, so give me the Mean Green there.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth. If Mestemaker was playing in this game, I would easily take North Texas. I also really like North Texas's running back Caleb Hawkins. I think he's awesome, and he's probably going to go into the portal and make a boatload of money somewhere. Without Mestemaker and without their head coach Eric Morris, and I know he's moving on to Oklahoma State. I think he's taken his offensive coordinator too. I just think that there's too much turnover there. So I'm reluctantly going to go with the San Diego State Aztecs. Are they still the Aztecs?
Yes.
Is that what their mascot is now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going with the Aztecs. And probably a really, really boring game. Is it going to be boring?
It could be one of those surprisingly good.
Like I'm going. It could go in. It could go either way. Sometimes these games, like Toledo and Louisville last night, they broke out into a brawl. That made it entertaining. Yep. Maybe something like that'll happen here to make it a little bit more exciting. But just to recap our picks, I picked Houston against LSU. Zach picked Houston as well. I took the Clemson Tigers. Zach took Penn State in that game. I took Georgia Tech. Zach took BYU. We both took Missouri. I took San Diego State, and Zach took UNT. So a lot of variance here in our picks of the week, which we always love to see. But that's going to do it for another episode of Locked On Aggies. We will not have a show tomorrow on Christmas, but we will be back on Friday to talk more transfer portal rumors, give you season grades, and hit some other news items that we haven't gotten yet, because we got a couple days. We'll get there, but it'll be a mostly transfer portal heavy show, and positional grades and things like that. So subscribe to Locked On Aggies so you can get all the latest episodes. You can find us on X at Locked On Aggies, on TikTok at Locked On Aggies. Find me on X at Matt Galatzan. Find Zach on X at Zach Dimmitt 7. And if you need a last-minute holiday gift or someone keeps asking what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club, ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through the custom link in our bio at lockedonaggies.supercast.com. And for those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Football. And we will see you next time. And Merry Christmas.